My name is Nicholas Remus. I'm Advocacy Engagement Director here at AIA Colorado. I am going to turn it over to Jim Childs, our South Section Director, to introduce our panelists and our topic.
Great, thank you, Nick. And I think I know most of you. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Christy, for joining. I know you're quite busy and have some double duty today, but the purpose of the meeting, and we're going to talk about regional building department, and we're very thrilled to have Shelley on with us. Shelley, I don't know if she got her arm twisted or was lost a bet, but I told her we would be nice, we would be professional, and we want to learn more about what's going on, and maybe there are some informational topics that we could help one another with. If you don't know Shelley, she's been with the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department for over 21 years. The last 14 of those, she's been the senior plan reviewer on the construction side. I guess I got the last 7 of those would be right, but effectively knows everything. I don't read from scripts very often, Shelley. Knows everything, does everything, leader of all, and a wonderful asset to the building department. So we're thrilled to have you there doing the hard work that you do. And obviously, we as a group have a lot of things that we work together on. And as we partner and do all the things we need to, obviously there are going to be challenges. There's going to be opportunities and how we can do it better. But if you wouldn't mind, don't mean to put you on the spot. There's no, well, you probably shouldn't talk for 50 minutes straight. But if you have a few opening remarks, what's going on, what may be new, what may be changing, or what's a challenge, or what's running smoothly, we'd love to hear that. And then we can have an open dialogue with those on the call.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Most of you I know, and I've worked with you, some extensively, some not so much, but I still know who you are. With the lovely advent of COVID last year, we know that we all had to go to a lot of electronic that we weren't planning on, that we'd only been gearing up to. I think prior to last year, we had only had about a 55% electronic plan review submittal percentage, and we had to go to 100% just like that. Overall, we think the transition went pretty well, at least from our side, we think it did. We know that there was some bumps in the road, and there was a learning curve for a lot of people on how to do those electronic submittals, resubmittals, splices, all of that kind of stuff. We think at this point, most people have a good understanding, a good idea of how all of that works. We do know that there are still some challenges out there. We are starting to allow paper submittals as well. We have gone back to doing walkthroughs. We do those on an appointment basis, which is different than what we did prior to COVID. But honestly, we think it's working out better. We don't have a lot of people just wasting their entire days sitting down at the building department. Customers, including homeowners, contractors, they can better plan their days to come and see us, and we can make sure that they get seen versus having to turn people away like we used to because we had a lobby full of people. We are finding also that our appointments are not being taken up as far out as originally intended. In fact, I just checked before the meeting, and we do still have appointments available even for tomorrow. So it's actually working out very well, I think, for everybody involved in that. I really don't have anything prepared because I have been to a lot of these types of scenarios where the speaker prepares 50 minutes worth of stuff to talk about, and it's actually nothing that you want to hear about. So I want feedback from you guys. I want to be able to answer your questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. I do know a lot about the department. I have been there quite a bit, and I have done about everything. And if I don't know the answer, I'll get your contact information if I don't have it, and I'll get back to you on that. So hit me with what you got.
Perfect. And thank you, Shelley. And I will add to that. Christy, I know you don't have anything prepared either, but you might join in with some comments about what you know and what's going on. And then we can really open it up to everyone and be as productive and knowledge providing as possible. Christy, I saw you went off mute, but we can't hear you.
Oh, hang on.
Now on mute again.
Does that work now?
Let's see. Well, while Christy's working on that, why don't we jump in then with, and hopefully we'll get that fixed, but any of you questions for Shelley? I'll moderate as best I can, but I'm sure you're here to learn some things and ask questions. Go ahead and start chatting if you'd like.
Hey, Shelley, I'll start.
Okay.
I have a question on the electronic submittals when they go through the system, and then they have some outside departments that need to review. Some of the more atypical ones like Cimarron Hills Fire or Manitou. So if we've got a digital thing going through the system, it's hard for us to get red lines back before they go to those departments. And then because they may or may not be doing the digital review, it's kind of like they're in a limbo until we have to kind of ask for the red lines. And is there a way to streamline that, or is that something you guys are aware of?
It is something that we're aware of, and it should actually be functioning such that if you have submitted electronically for a area that doesn't participate in electronic submittals, say Green Mountain Falls or I think Palmer Lake at this point, you should have access to your red lines once you're through all of the departments that do participate in the electronic portion of it. So if you're having a hard time getting to your red lines, please let us know, because that's something that we need to follow up with our IT department with, because the way it's supposed to function is you're supposed to get those, because oftentimes you have to take those then to those outside agencies so they at least know, what feedback we had, especially if you're dealing with like, Tri-Lakes, like Tri-View Mountain Metropolitan District. I'll get it out eventually. Because they need to see what the plumbing reviewer said or something along those lines. So yeah, if that's not working, let me know, because you should have access.
Okay, and then when we go to those people that aren't doing digital submittals, should we print out a set and take them? And then if they redline, how do we get those comments into the system?
They contact us.
Okay.
So it really isn't on you to do that. They should be contacting our department. They can contact me, they can contact Jay, or they can contact Jane at the front counter. And we're getting that feedback and putting it in. I'm putting in stuff for TriView all the time because Nick with JDS Hydro is always emailing me going, hey, put this in. And whether or not they want to see your red lines is actually going to be up to them. So, before you make an appointment or trek down to their offices to get that done, give them a call and say, hey, this is where I'm at in the process and what do I need to bring with me?
Perfect. Thanks.
So a follow-up question to that, before they can be then picked up by Zach, all of the reviews have to be complete. So
The electronic ones, yeah.
the electronic ones, okay. Okay. And I don't deal with Pikes Peak Regional Building Department that much anymore. Is that online for Zach and others to know that where it is in the system so they can check and see as mechanical or, enumerations or any of those, is that all available to the submitter electronically?
Mhm. Yeah, they the system is set up to automatically generate emails to whoever the submitting party is. So if Zach submitted it under his account, he would be getting emails generated automatically anytime that there is an input put in under that plan. So if enumeration sees it, they put in that it's approved, he's going to get an email that says it was approved. Now, one thing we are finding is that email systems are considering our stuff junk. Don't laugh, but they are. So oftentimes some of that is going to spam folders and junk folders, so people aren't getting those messages. So if you see that something has gone, just indicate us as a safe sender, and you'll get those in your inbox versus it going to your spam box. And so you'll get those emails, and you're also able to go into the system anytime and see where the plan sits as far as who's reviewed it, what the comments are, who else needs to review it. And that's all updated real time.
Sure. So for those on the call, are you finding that that process works reasonably well? I don't see any shaking heads or nods or jumping up and down for
Just
joy.
see a bunch of pictures, except for Zach.
We're
Well,
all
I'll
hiding.
continue the IT questions. So typically, you know, once we complete the plans, I turn it over to the general contractor for them to submit and do the permit, because they have to pull the permit as part of their license. But the plan review is a little more gray. And so usually I give it to them and they submit on their account. A lot of times they'll put my email in so that I'll get the comments so I can track it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Is there a way to link that? You know, if they submit on their account, is there a way to link my account so that I can have access to?
No, there's not. It's basically the way the system is set up is that it's proprietary to whoever is submitting it.
Okay.
So you can submit it under your account, no problem. But then the contractor won't have access to any of that until he pulls the permit. And then once he pulls the permit, then it becomes proprietary to him, which is why you can't submit splices.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. It's just usually, I'm going to pick on contractors because there's none in the room, but they're not the most technology savvy individuals usually. So they're having a hard time with your system. But you know that, so.
Yeah, John, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, we've dealt with that so much that there's a lot of responsibility in the final stages of this put on the contractor. And even the biggest and most sophisticated seem to struggle. And I'll use a different term. I think it's more convenient for them to have the IT savvy staff that make up a typical architectural firm. It's easier for them to do it than for them.
Yeah, and I have found that a lot of times contractors, they'll just give their architects their login information and say, hey, you do it.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to figure it out. But it's not a difficult process. Once you do it once, you know how to do it.
Sure. So thanks for that, Zach. Questions from others?
I have one that we doing a lot of school projects, and the state had recently adopted the 2021 IBC codes. And so for the energy code with the ComCheck, I noticed they don't have the 2021 energy code as an option in that. What is RBD accepting, I guess, for when we submit the projects?
Well, you don't have to do a ComCheck.
Okay.
You know, you've got several different methods that you can use to show compliance. You know, you can do prescriptive, which comes straight out of the code. You just put those values on our IECC form. The feedback I've gotten so far is that DOE just says, just use it under ASHRAE, because they have the ASHRAE portion of it working, but they don't have the IECC portion of it working. And that's the last feedback I got. The problem with that is if you choose ASHRAE, well, then you have to do all of those ASHRAE provisions as well. You can't just use ASHRAE to get your IECC portion taken care of, but not follow through with the rest of the ASHRAE stuff, because it all works together. And so that's a little bit of a disconnect there. You always have the option of doing the manual calculations and providing those as well. It gives you the formula for it is in the IECC. All of the values are there. So if you want to do the manual calculations and, you know, just stamp that bad boy, we'll accept that. That's fine. You know, you can do the simulated performance path and get an energy rater on board and have them do it too. Just like we see with residential quite a bit these days. So you have options other than just CommCheck.
Okay.
And real quick, while I'm thinking about it, before Christy left, she had brought up that topic of splices, and kind of piggybacking off of the conversation that we were having, that Zach started. We are trying our best to make sure that what we're getting from the contractors as far as splices looks legit. I mean, for lack of better terminology to do it, I mean, it's hard for us because with the types of software that people have available to them these days, they can add comments, they can modify some things. Now, you guys always have the option of doing digital signatures, which then prevents people from making changes to those plans. Sometimes those digital signatures cause issues with our system, but there are ways for us to get around it. It just takes more time, which with each of those. And the only thing that really I can suggest is unfortunately, we have to rely on contractors to do those splices, because once the permit is pulled, they own it. I guess, I don't have a good suggestion on how to follow up with them. I mean, you always have access to our records. Our records are public. Most all of you have some sort of universal account that allows you to access our records. So you would be able to go into those plan sets and verify whether or not what we were given is what you gave them, if that's becoming an issue. Again, you can walk through splices. So if a particular contractor, you've had questions about whether or not they're modifying your stuff, you can do walkthroughs. You just set up an appointment and for your time slot, and then you can sit down with everybody you need to sit down with. The problem with that is when it comes to if outside agencies have to take a look at that, fire has a walkthrough, not walkthrough kind of system going on. So they're not really doing walkthroughs. You have to kind of drop it off. And so it's not really a walkthrough. I think zoning is doing some actual walkthroughs at this point, especially for anything that's commercial. But as far as we're concerned, you can always come in and see us and bring in a splice and paper. If you want to do that. The same rules still apply. You have to be able to be reviewed within 15 minutes or less. And we're sticking to those timeframes a lot more than we were because of the fact that we're scheduling appointments. We've got someone slated in that next slot 15 minutes later. So we have to be pretty conscious of those timeframes. But if you ever have a question about what was submitted and whether or not it's what you intended to be submitted, or you find out something was submitted that's been altered, you can contact us and we can actually then turn around and disapprove that splice, because that means that we were given erroneous information. We can hold up the job at that point because the information we were given was not accurate.
Interesting. Any follow-ups, David?
No, I don't know. I think those were. I think that was mostly coming from Christy, but
Oh,
that
gotcha.
was addressing. She had it in the chat, but
Yeah. I'm working on a small screen. I didn't see that.
Did I answer your question about the energy code though, David?
yeah, I think you did. You did. You mentioned you had a form it's on your website that we could fill out to satisfy that requirement, I believe.
Oh,
so.
absolutely. Yep. All of our forms are available in the handout section of the website. You
Mhm.
just go to commercial or residential, depending on which avenue you're going down, and just print off the form and fill it out, or
Mhm.
submit it digitally if you're doing electronic.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I got another one on scheduling to come see you guys. Right now, there's a 1 per day kind of limit. I'm wondering if there could be an exception if we had 2 projects, 2 separate things to talk about, if we could get 2 appointments, and that way we could do them back to back and save us from having to come the different day. Or are you seeing enough volume that you just can't allow that yet? Or
We are seeing enough volume per day, and we want to make sure that we're staying fair and equitable to anybody who needs to come in and see us that day. So yeah, we are not allowing back-to-back appointments, because otherwise somebody could block out the whole day.
Sure.
And then nobody would be able to come in that day. So yeah, we're trying to be fair and equitable to everybody that we serve that way.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if an exception, if we, had 2 or 3 different projects that we need 10, 15 minutes each to talk about, or you just probably just need to schedule those different days.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Okay. Other questions? There's John again.
Okay, it looks like you can. Is my video going? Looks like it.
Yes, it is.
With the appointments, is there a limit to anything that you want to talk about? I mean, you have to. It's on the appointment. I haven't done that, but on the appointment description, it says it's best to submit the plan electronically first. Is it okay to just bring in if you want to talk about a project that you haven't submitted or not ready to submit yet? Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
If you have a project that you just want to get that kind of consultation part of it in, you're welcome to just, bring in a plan. It doesn't even have to be full size. A lot of you have brought me 11 by 17s going, hey, can we talk about this? You're still welcome to do that. Just pick your time slot, come on in, bring it in. When you get checked in at the front counter, just let them know I'm just here for a consult. And so they won't actually check in your plans. They'll just sign you up for who you want to see and we are still encouraging electronic submittals for anything that you're trying to walk, and most of that stems from the outside departments because they are at this point, some of them don't even want to look at paper. They will, but they don't want to, and that process takes longer. And so if you submit it electronically and you make your appointment, we can still review it electronically, but it also opens it up to having those outside agencies review it without having to then turn around and submit it to get to them. And the review time is actually faster if you do it electronically. But we will still do paper. You bring in your paper plan, you check it in, just like we've always done. And you'll just have to then turn around and submit it with the front counter if you have to see like CSU or some of those outside agencies that aren't doing walkthroughs at this point. You have to submit it, and most of them are only coming to grab plans once or twice a week, so it actually takes longer.
Okay, that's all I've got. Unless you want to, before you leave, talk about your fabulous new satellite facility to be opening in November.
Well, I would love to, John, but I've only seen it once. And you were there that day, so you know how much of it I saw. So yeah, I have not seen it. It's my understanding that we have been given the timeline of sometime end of October. maybe for
End
completion.
of October is the construction finish, but I don't know when you're planning on having it up and operating and ready for people to come in.
Well, the hope is, I think by the end of the year, we want to actually have it staffed and operating. So I mean, it's going to be limited. It's not going to be like the downtown office because we're not going to have outside agencies there. So it would be stuff that either you just need to finish up 1 or 2 RBD departments. You could go in there, get those plan reviews finished up, get the permit issued, and be on your way. For those of you, I don't know of any of you that actually do the small residential stuff, but that would be able to be done like basement finishes and those kind of things that don't need to be outside departments. But at this time, we aren't going to have fire or zoning or any of those other departments there. It's just us. So it'll be limited services, but it'll be available hopefully by the end of the year.
So
Thank you.
a follow-up, Shelley. I don't know how the rest of all of your offices are functioning, but we are very much struggling finding people who want to come work with us. The workforce is, I don't think we're a difficult company to work with. We have great projects going, but we're struggling with getting, we had an ad in the state AIA job board for 4 weeks, didn't even get a hit. And it's a struggle. I'm assuming some of you may be having that same struggle. Shelley, how are you all accomplishing adding staff or relocating staff to take care of the needs of what I'd say is a booming construction economy?
Well, in one word, I'd say painfully.
Are you?
We have the same problem. We list positions because we're trying to gear up our staff to be able to be split and in 2 different locations and still function in both locations the same way everybody expects it to. So, we're doing the best that we can to hire people as well. So I feel your pain. I really do. As far as how the staff is going to be allocated, that hasn't really been decided yet. There's been talk of doing, staff rotations and having, staff rotate up on a, I don't know, weekly, monthly basis, whatever the powers that be decide. There have been some discussions about, that's not really fair to people that live on the south side of town who, like going to the downtown office and don't want to drive a half hour to work. And those people who live up north, well, it's a perfect opportunity for them to work closer to home. But those decisions have not been made yet. But we're fully intending on having a full complement of staff in both locations.
Yeah, okay. Well, and this is not a gotcha question, but do you feel like you have enough staff to provide all of the myriad of services that is a part of the building department?
In some areas, yes. In some areas, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Because, if we only have, there are some in the plan review department, we only have 3 people that do certain trades. And so if we have 1 person at the downtown office doing walkthroughs, 1 person at the north office doing walkthroughs, that leaves only 1 person that's dedicated to doing plans that day.
Sure.
So we are taking those kind of aspects into consideration as well and trying to figure out, do we need to hire staff? Is there going to be enough lag time between appointments for us to still be able to do those plan reviews? And so it might be just a wait and see how it works kind of thing. And if we need to hire more staff, we can. Or if we can make it work with our current staff levels, then we'll try and do that as well.
Sure. Well, I think one of our roles as a group, and I guess I'm lumping us all into a group, the success and however streamlined the process that you all, of services you all are providing is extremely important to our success. And I would think if you all are challenged with someone deciding you don't have the budget to hire people, or what I'm trying to say in a positive way is I think we could be collectively supporters and advocates for, if you all are struggling getting enough help, not that they're available, but just from a budget perspective, from those who determine what your budgets are. I know I would be more than happy to sit with those individuals on your behalf. I'm assuming most of everyone on the call would do the same to assist with that.
And I appreciate that. I'm not one of those people that gets to determine the budget stuff. It's a little, I'm a little lower on the totem pole than that. But I don't think right now that's the bigger concern. It's a bigger concern if we don't want to hire a bunch of people and then have to turn around and let them go because we found out that we actually don't have that need. But if at any point you see our services are starting to fall behind or are lacking in one avenue or another, we're always open to you reaching out and saying, hey, this is happening. This is what we're seeing, so that we can make those adjustments and potentially bring on staff if we need to.
Sure. Is there a preferred method for us to do that?
On the plan review side, you can always contact Jay. You can contact me too, but all of that stuff I would have to forward on to him because he is the person higher up the totem pole than me that deals with that stuff. On the inspection side, it would be John Welton.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I mean, you all have a very difficult job. There, in a lot of cases, are confrontations that may or may not need to be there, but and that's part of some of our, I haven't read through all of our expected goals, and we'll do some of these. We already have, but in a broader picture, your responsibility is looking out for the life, safety, and health of the community. We also have that same mantra in our ethics and what we're hired to do. And in a lot of cases, because we are in the service industry as well, we're caught in the middle. And there are interpretive issues about whether something could potentially be handled one way, and maybe differences of opinion on whether it should or not. And then we get put in a difficult position a lot of times too, and it's in many cases blamed on you, but it happens. And I mean, we're here to figure out a best way to work. And I've always struggled personally, and maybe you can help me and others with this. I won't have everyone else included in this, but I'm not a code expert. I design buildings, and I get smart people to work with me to figure out how to do everything that needs to be done. I've always felt awkward with I don't really know what this answer is, and scheduling time with you to say, help me out here. And in some cases, and I'm going back in history, this is probably before you were born, where if you walked in with a question, someone would say, now, Jim, that's your job to know that. Why are you bothering me? So where is there a line that could be, how can we help one another? Or how can we come in with the information? How much of that should we have done as homework for you then to sit down and say, okay, Jim, I see your dilemma. We'd probably look at it this way, for us to then proceed with the documentation that we need to do?
Well, first off, I don't think there is a line. if you're looking at something and you're like, I'm not sure how this code section applies, or even if it applies, I personally would rather you reach out and you know, I'm going to speak on behalf of all the plans examiners, because we all have this mentality of, hey, I would rather you spend 5 minutes of my time up front to ask the question to get it right on the plan than me have to spend 15 minutes trying to figure out where the heck you're coming from.
Sure.
So, you know, if it's a simple question, give us a phone call, shoot us an email, and, you know, we'll try and answer it. If you want to have a more in-depth conversation like that, we have what's called a pre-submittal consultation. And that form, again, is available on our website. It's under the commercial side. We don't do a whole lot of pre-consults for residential, but we have. And that is a feed service. So it's $50 an hour per trade, but you can request, you know, construction, electrical, mechanical, enumerations. We can invite fire if you want us to. And you know, you can bring in your plan sets. Well, I shouldn't say bring in, we're doing everything via Teams these days, but you can share your plans with us and say, hey, this is where I'm having the issue. I don't know how this is going to function. And so at that point, we can look at what your concept is and we can say, yeah, that works, or no, it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you know, this is what would make it code compliant. These are the options that you have. We obviously can't help you design. We have to stay out of that. But we can say, hey, the code would allow this, this, and this. And then it would be up to you to determine which of those options is going to be best. You know, based on, you know, all of the constraints that you have to work with, you know, the physical building itself, the budget, you know, how receptive your owners and contractors are to those kind of things. You know, you have to, you know, figure out those ins and outs of it. But from a code standpoint, ask.
Well, that's good info, because for most of us, you know, we have to be budget driven too. We have to be efficient with our time. And I can't tell you the countless hours that, whether it's through not understanding the code, or I shouldn't say these things, but we may have some very pushy clients, potentially knowledgeable clients that want us to do everything within our power to be to persuade conclusions that is in their benefit, not potentially in what's the right way to protect life, safety, and health of, as we talked before. Good information. Well, thank you for that. I think was it John that had a question? I'm seeing these things pop up about foundation insulation.
Yes.
There we go.
And I don't know if this is a topic for here, but foundation insulation is something where I've had a numerous discussions with contractors about what the code says versus what they want to do. And how to achieve that. I mean, I've gone through, you know, numerous details, and actually we found through the Fort Collins Building Department has a document that's very good on this particular issue. And the issue is, how do you get the foundation insulation to go to the floor level, as it states in the code, versus you know, stopping at the underside of the slab or running horizontal or whatever. That does not, in, you know, in my interpretation, that doesn't seem to be an option. Have you had this discussion, Shelley, with other architects and contractors? Because it's it just seems like I'm always in an argument with contractors about this one.
Well, and I understand where you're coming from, because the IECC used to allow you to do that 45-degree angle and then pour the slab over the top of that 45-degree angle. So you didn't have this awkward piece of insulation that's sticking up there. Well, the code got rid of that because they thought that that was a thermal break or a breach in protection, however you want to word that. And so, yeah, it requires now that the insulation go all the way up to the top of the slab, which in most cases, if you're carpeting, it's not going to make a difference because no one's going to see it anyway. But if you're doing like a finished concrete floor where all you're going to do is, you know, stain it and seal it and, oh, you know, away you go. Well, yeah, now you have this awkward piece of insulation that's sitting there. And unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you on that. Because, you know, that's what the code requires. I mean, if from a planning ahead standpoint, if you know that they want to do that finished concrete, my best suggestion would be do the insulation on the outside and just protect it on the outside from, you know, weathering and impact and that kind of stuff. And then you don't have that awkward insulation stripe going around the building. And if you know that they're going to do, you know, an interior finished floor, whether it be carpet or you know, any other flooring system that's going to cover it up, then it doesn't matter.
If you're interested, I'll send you, excuse me, I'll send you this document that we got from Fort Collins. I've been using it recently, and maybe it's getting better now that contractors are more used to having to comply with that, but they just keep arguing with me about, you know, the way they've always done it and the way they used to do it, and et cetera, and it's how I'm adding cost to the project and I'm the bad guy.
You know, unfortunately, you know, times change.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Have to keep up with that. So, but I would be very interested in seeing that document, John. So if you could
Okay,
a link, that would be good.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
So to follow up on that, John and Shelley, are the inspectors out looking for the proper methodology of doing this, and are they assisting you, John, so you're not the only bad guy in the world?
Actually, I shouldn't even say this. I think part of the problem was the inspectors also were not, I don't know if they were not making the contractors build the way the document said, or if it was overlooked, or if they were kind of like, I don't know. I had this kind of uncomfortable conversation with John Welton too about it, and you know, about the whole thing. And we because I think there's kind of a lag on that one, because it's a tough detail, and it's if you don't address it, and it, you know, comes up after the fact, it's more difficult. So yeah, I haven't had direct discussion with inspectors. I did have numerous discussions with plan review, you know, recently about it, but it's I did a whole thing where I sketched an 8.5 by 11 thing of all the possible options, and that kind of helps. So I reuse that, but having an official document that's not from me helps give a little legitimacy to it, that I'm not just being this. I kind of get this you know, I get the look like I'm just being difficult, or like I'm the only one making them do this, or I'm the only all that stuff. So anyway, it's yeah, I think it's going to get better. I just was curious from RBD's standpoint. They obviously are enforcing the code too. So
Well, I think that's a perfect way that we could partner together.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd suggest letting Shelley or whoever the right person is know, and we can, it's supposed to be a certain way, and it is providing what the code says we need to do. We need to join forces and make sure we're doing it correctly. So I think it's a great thing. So I see on my little computer clock here, we're at 12:54. We've gone through some good questions, but you know, Shelley, I know I put you on the spot a few times and it's not my intent, but you have a group of professionals here that you work with often. We obviously respect what you do, and I'm sure you know what we do and do the same. How can we help you do your job better? How can we be efficient and help you with what we do so this works best for everyone?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we run into that's problematic isn't from anybody on this panel. So answering that doesn't do you guys any favors. But you know, I mean, big things that we run into is that, you know, we make a comment and then it gets ignored, you know, and so a resubmittal gets done and only 50% of it has been answered. And so we have to turn it down again for 50% of the same comments we made the first time. And then we get it back again. And if we're lucky, then everything else was addressed. If we're not lucky, then we get another 25% addressed. And you know, that would kind of help everybody if you just answered everything in the up front. And if you have questions about a comment that your reviewer had, go directly to that reviewer. You know, don't automatically come to me or automatically go to Jay, because then we have to take our time to track down the reviewer, talk to the reviewer about it, look at the plans, get our heads wrapped around the plans. And the reviewer's already done that. You know, if you come to an impasse with the reviewer, then call me or call Jay and we'll get involved. But, you know, our reviewers are good at what they do. And most of them, most of the time, are perfectly willing to have a conversation with you about, hey, this is where I'm coming from with that. And if you're like, yeah, but what about this? Okay, no, I can see that. You know, I've said that I don't know how many times. You know, having a conversation a lot of times helps with those plan review questions that you're like, hey, I don't know how this worked. I don't know how you got there. I don't know where you're coming from. You know, and on the flip side, you know, if it's an inspection issue, once the plans go out of plan review and the permit gets issued, it's no longer a plan review issue. So if an inspector is making a comment, in all honesty, the inspector is the final say so on whether something works or not. Until something comes back into plan review, we really can't get involved. So if your contractor is calling you and saying, hey, my inspector said so-and-so. Well, okay, have you talked to your inspector? Well, no. Well, you need to. That's where you need to start. Yeah. You need to start with whoever is making this comment and talk to them about it. You know, and the inspection staff, if they're like, I don't quite know, they'll come to plan review and we'll then get involved. But you know, you have to kind of give that respect where that respect is supposed to be given. Of, you need to talk to those people first. And right. You know, that would help streamline things and not, you know, waste everybody's time and having to do all of this, you know, running around and finding out answers because we were never involved in the first place. Sure. So that would help. You know, and going back to some earlier discussion, if you have a question, ask. That saves everybody time.
Great. Well, Shelley, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. I somewhat caught you off guard with asking you to do this, and okay. Very thankful for your knowledge, very thankful for your help, and also to all the group here on the call. Greatly appreciate your time. But thank you, Shelley, and tell Jay thank you as well. I haven't seen him for a while, so give him a big shout out for me.
I will.
Also, we do have some, it's taken us a little while to get off the ground as AIA South and activities. We do have a couple of building tours coming up, or at least one building tour and an activity. So watch for those on your calendars. Look forward to you and spreading the word for getting a big turnout, and certainly more to come and with Nick on the phone, we'll sign off. But again, thank you, Shelley. Thank you for all you do, and for all of those with you, for helping our plans get reviewed and get built and continue to make Colorado Springs growth as positive as it can be.
No, thank you, Jim, as well. I mean, we all are a team. We should be working together. And, I look forward to doing that.
Great. Well, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all. You have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon.
You too. Goodbye.
Thank you all.